What's going on, everyone? Today we're diving into one of the most underrated mountain towns and areas of Colorado that I've ever explored. Colorado's Wet Mountain Valley is a region of the state situated between the Wet Mountains and the Sangre de Cristo mountain range. It's actually on the opposing side of the Sangres from the sand dunes. The area is filled with an endless amount of hikes and stunning alpine landscapes, and some of the more unique activities in the state, like getting licked on the teeth by a real wolf. But more on that later. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive right in. This is my top 10 hikes and things to do in Colorado's Wet Mountain Valley. This adventure starts in the small town of Westcliffe, which is a 2.5 to 3 hour drive from downtown Denver. The town is backdropped by massive peaks that go on for over 100 miles. Bree and I were invited to the area by the tourism board and just wanted to give them a huge thank you for having us out. We had an incredible week with them, and after watching this video, if you have any questions or would like more information on anything, check out their website linked below in the description. First up on the list, we're hiking Music Pass to Lower Sand Creek Lake, a beautiful trail that will take you to a pristine alpine lake, and the craziest part about this hike is that it's actually located inside of Great Sand Dunes National Park. Who knew that Colorado's sand dunes had alpine lake hikes? I sure didn't. I always just thought that the dunes were backdropped by the mountains. So if you start at Music Pass Trailhead, the trail is roughly 7 miles round trip with about 1,700 feet of elevation gain. First, you will hike just over a mile up to Music Pass itself, where you'll be greeted with phenomenal views of the surrounding 13,000 and 14,000 foot peaks in the area. Then you will descend to Sand Creek, where you will take the fork left up to the lake. At this fork, if you'd like to add another destination, you can continue hiking up the valley to Upper Sand Creek Lake, but the lower lake is definitely the more scenic one. You will need 4-wheel drive and some clearance to get to Music Pass Trailhead, so if you don't have a vehicle that can make it, you'll have to add about 5 to 6 miles and more elevation to your total specs. Next up at number 2, we're heading to South Colony Lakes, which is arguably the busiest trailhead and hike on this list, so it's of the utmost importance to practice leave no trace when hiking this trail and all of the other trails on this list. We all need to make sure to visit and recreate outdoors responsibly so we can continue to enjoy these beautiful landscapes. The hike to South Colony Lakes is 8.1 miles round trip with 2,300 feet of elevation gain. The hike is beautiful and you're surrounded by 14,000 foot peaks, which include Crestone Needle, Crestone Peak, and Humboldt Peak. Once you reach the upper lake, you'll be greeted with one of the most jaw-dropping alpine lakes in the whole state. The peaks behind the lake are some of the more jagged in the area, and a note on this hike that I can't stress enough is bring bug spray. We got annihilated by the bugs when we were here, and I still have bites as I'm recording this script. A thermocell device may help with the bugs. For this hike and the following hike on the list, you are going to start at South Colony Lakes Trailhead, and you will need 4-wheel drive with clearance to get to this trailhead. At number 3, we have an extension of South Colony Lakes, and that is to continue hiking up to Humboldt Peak 14er. Of the handful of 14ers in the Wet Mountain Valley, this is quote-unquote the easiest 14er. Humboldt Peak is a Class 2 14er, which essentially means that it is a hike that includes rocky terrain, some route finding, and you will occasionally have to use your hands for balance as you ascend up the mountain. It's not climbing, but inherently all 14ers are dangerous due to weather, rockfall, and the big hiking specs. Humboldt clocks in at 11 miles round trip with 4,250 feet of elevation gain, so it's a big day. From South Colony Lakes, it's not that much further with regards to mileage, but it does get very steep. But if you're up for it, I recommend it, as the views up top are some of the best in Colorado. From the summit, you'll see countless 14ers, including Crestone Needle, Crestone Peak, Challenger Point, Kit Carson, Blanca, Ellingwood, Lindsay, and Little Bear Peak. A note on these peaks, every single one of them other than Humboldt is a technical peak with Class 3 to 5 terrain with lots of route finding, and I wouldn't recommend any of those unless you have experience doing comparable peaks. Next up isn't a hike, but actually a scenic drive called the Frontier Pathways Scenic Byway, which if you're visiting the area from Denver, Colorado Springs, or Pueblo, you're naturally going to drive some of this byway. The drive consists of 2 different roads, both of which I'd recommend you do. They are Route 96 and Route 165. Route 96 is a much more direct drive from the big cities to Westcliffe. You'll have non-stop beautiful views of the Sangres with the wet mountains surrounding you. And on Route 165, you'll have equally great views, but there will also be 2 destinations on this side of the drive that I would recommend stopping at. The first is Lake Isabel, which is a great place to bring your paddleboard, kayak, or fishing gear to. It's a great place for a day on the water. The second stop on Route 165 is Bishop's Castle, which is a very unique destination in the state. It is quite literally a castle in the middle of the mountains. You'll be entering at your own risk, and to be honest, as we climbed the castle, it felt like it could fall at any second, so proceed with caution. Nonetheless, a very cool stop that somewhat makes you feel like you're in a Harry Potter movie. Next up, we're hiking the Venable Kamanche Loop to the Phantom Terrace. This is probably one of my favorite hikes in the area after Humboldt. The trail is 12.3 miles with 3,900 feet of elevation gain, so this is a big day, but it's worth it. You'll hike up one valley, go across the Phantom Terrace, and then hike down another valley, making it a loop hike with endless views. If you like less steep grades going uphill, you should hike up the Kamanche side, and if you want to get the vertical gain over with and less mileage, you should hike up the Venable side. The Phantom Terrace itself is roughly a half-mile catwalk that goes straight across the slopes of Venable Peak, which is one of the many 13,000-foot mountains in the area. From a distance, it's near impossible to see the narrow trail, but once you're on it, it's just a hiking trail, so there won't be any climbing involved. Although, if you have a fear of heights, then this hike might not be for you, because to your side, there's almost a 1,000-foot drop-off. No matter who decides to hike this, I would not recommend doing this in the rain or if there's snow or ice on the Phantom Terrace. A fall would not be good. When we hiked this, Frankie's phone fell out of his jacket and we ended up hiking 17 miles with 5,000 feet of vertical gain. It's quite a long hike to begin with, so definitely one where you need to be prepared for a long day. And make sure you have your phone on you the whole time. At number 6, we have a slight modification of the previous Phantom Terrace hike. For this one, we'll be hiking either Kamanche Lake or Venable Lake. The reason I'm putting this separate from Phantom Terrace is because the Phantom Terrace is a huge day in the mountains, and not everyone wants to do a 12+ mile hike. If you just want to hike out and back to Kamanche Lake, this will be 9 miles with 2,600 feet of elevation gain, and if you want to hike Venable Lakes, it'll be 8.8 miles round trip with 2,950 feet of elevation gain. Plus, if you go to the Venable Lakes, you will also hike past Venable Falls, adding a scenic waterfall to your day. This hike is a great alternative for those looking to have a shorter mileage day with comparable views to the Phantom Terrace. For both number 5 and 6, you will start at the Venable Kamanche trailhead. It is a dirt road, but any car could likely make it to the trailhead. Next up on the list is Mission Wolf, one of the more unique experiences I've had in Colorado. Mission Wolf is a solar-powered nature center that provides sanctuary to unwanted captive-born wolves and wolf dogs. You can come for the day or set up a tent and camp after volunteering for the day, week, or month. Most of the buildings on property have been made from recycled material that was donated, and they have greenhouses on property to grow their own food, in addition to local ranchers donating meat for the wolves. Mission Wolf focuses on sustainability and is a community pillar in Wet Mountain Valley. To get here, you'll be driving on rough dirt roads, but any car can make it in the summer months. In the winter, they recommend having 4-wheel drive, tire chains, 24 hours worth of gas, water, and food in your car in case of an emergency. On property, you'll get a tour of the sanctuary and learn all about the wolves and the trophic cascade that wolves bring, helping ecosystems as a whole. You can also provide donations and become a wolf caretaker. More information on that can be found on their website linked below. At number 8, we're hiking to Lake of the Clouds, which is a 10-mile round-trip hike with 2,500 feet of elevation gain for the most direct route. Or you can take a longer, less steep route for 11.6 miles with 2,500 feet of gain. Either route is going to start at Gibson Creek Trailhead, which is another dirt road for the last bit of the drive, but any car can make this one as well. This is a beautiful hike that will take you up the valley all the way to 3 different alpine lakes. My favorite lake was the second because the reflections were out of this world. Next up, we're hiking the Rainbow Trail to Crystal Falls. To start this hike, you're going to drive 30 minutes south of Westcliffe and go to Grape Creek Trailhead. It's one of the many access points to the Rainbow Trail, but it's where you'll start this hike for Crystal Falls Waterfall. The trail is roughly 6.5 miles round trip with around 800 feet of elevation gain. It's mostly downhill to get to the waterfall and then uphill to get back to your car, but it has a lot of up and down the entire hike, so none of the grades are steep. It's a very casual and enjoyable trail. The waterfall is beautiful and a nice little cove in the shade to take a break, but I'll be honest, my favorite part of this entire hike was the actual hike. The trail is on the side of the mountain, elevated above the valley below, giving you expansive views the entire way. It was really beautiful. It's also a very lush trail with plenty of aspens and wildflowers to enjoy. Last up on the list is another activity. We're going horseback riding with Georgia Ranch Trail Rides. If you've ever wanted to ride horses, this is a great place to do this, as you will have sweeping mountain views as you ride. You'll learn how to ride a horse and how to tell the horse which direction you want to go, as you will have to make some turns along the trail and avoid trees on the side of the trail. This is an awesome experience that I'd recommend for anyone interested in doing this. And I want to include one more bonus location, and that's Deweese Reservoir, a state wildlife area. This is a body of water less than 10 minutes north from Westcliffe's Main Street. It's stunning. It's backdropped by the entire Sangre de Cristo mountain range. It is not a place to swim or take a kayak out, as you can't get on the water unless you are actively fishing or own property around the reservoir. However, it's an incredible spot to just sit down and enjoy sunset and maybe even a picnic. That's going to wrap up this video. I really hope you liked it. If you have any questions about any of the trails or the area in general, please leave them down below in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and take a few minutes to check out Wet Mountain Valley's website. I wanted to say thanks again to the tourism board for hosting us us for such an incredible week. This is one of the most underrated areas of Colorado and definitely a place that should be added to your bucket list. And if you'd like to see more of Colorado, I have top 10s and travel guides from all over the state on the channel. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.